Imagine growing up in the heart of Brooklyn, surrounded by poverty and violence, and then rising to become one of the greatest rappers of all time. That was the life of Christopher Wallace, better known as the Notorious B.I.G. Biggie's story is one of triumph and tragedy, filled with suspenseful moments and surprising details. Did you know that despite his success, Biggie never learned how to drive? Or that he spent 9 months in prison for selling crack cocaine before he became a rapper? But Biggie's life wasn't just about overcoming obstacles and achieving fame. He was also a mentor and father figure to many in his community, including the members of his junior mafia crew. He took them under his wing, teaching them the ropes of the music industry and guiding them through the ups and downs of life. And of course, there's the music. Biggie's signature flow and storytelling abilities captivated audiences around the world, earning him critical acclaim and a devoted fan base. His collaborations with other hip-hop icons, like Jay-Z and Lil' Kim, helped shape the genre and inspired countless artists to follow in his footsteps. But perhaps what's most compelling about Biggie's story is his legacy. Even after his tragic death in 1997, his music continues to resonate with audiences of all ages and backgrounds. He remains one of the most influential rappers of all time, inspiring new generations of artists to push the boundaries of hip-hop and keep his memory alive. So join me, Stan, your host on Rap Tales Rewind, as we take a deep dive into the life and music of the Notorious B.I.G. It's a story you won't want to miss, filled with surprises and small facts that even the most die-hard fans might not know. From his early days in Brooklyn to his rise to fame and untimely death, we'll explore every facet of Biggie's legendary career and legacy. We are about to get into it. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. Biggie grew up in the 1980s, in a housing complex called St. James Place, in the Clinton Hill neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York. The complex was known for its high crime rates and poverty, and Biggie often rapped about his experiences growing up in this environment. The 1980s and early 1990s were a particularly difficult time for many neighborhoods in Brooklyn, including Clinton Hill. There were several factors that contributed to the high levels of poverty, crime, and violence in the area. One major factor was the crack epidemic, which swept through many urban areas in the United States during this time. Crack cocaine was highly addictive and relatively cheap, which led to a surge in drug use and drug-related crime. Gangs also played a significant role in the drug trade and were responsible for much of the violence in the area. The crack epidemic in New York City during the 1980s was a significant public health crisis that affected the city's most impoverished neighborhoods. Crack was a cheap, highly addictive form of cocaine that became popular in the 1980s due to its low cost and ease of use. One of the main reasons for the sudden emergence of the crack epidemic was the availability of cocaine powder. Cocaine had become popular in the 1970s and 1980s, particularly in the disco scene, as a recreational drug that was used by many individuals. However, cocaine powder was expensive and not widely available, so it was primarily used by the upper class. In the early 1980s, drug dealers in South America began converting cocaine powder into crack, a smokable form of cocaine that could be sold at a much lower price than powder cocaine. Crack quickly became popular in poor urban areas because it was more affordable and accessible than cocaine powder. The sudden popularity of crack led to an increase in drug-related crime, as users often turned to theft and other crimes to support their addiction. The epidemic also had a devastating effect on public health, as crack addiction led to a surge in emergency room visits and deaths from drug overdose. New York City was particularly severe, as the city was already grappling with high levels of poverty and crime. The epidemic disproportionately affected African American and Hispanic communities, leading to a significant increase in racial tensions. Biggie's debut album, Ready to Die, is a masterpiece of storytelling that takes us on a journey through his life, from his birth to his rise as a hip-hop icon. The album's intro paints a vivid picture of the world that Biggie was born into on May 21, 1972. As we listen to the intro, we are transported back in time to the birth of hip-hop, when the sounds of funk music filled the air. But as we continue the intro, we find ourselves in the 80s, the music changes, rappers' delight plays, we hear arguing. We are confronted with a harsh reality. The crack epidemic has ravaged Biggie's community, and everyone is at each other's throats. On the first track, Things Done Changed, Biggie reminisces about a time when everyone was united, hanging out at BBQs and enjoying each other's company. The crack epidemic changed everything, turning friends into enemies and creating a generation of monsters. Friends and families turned to fiends overnight. The young teens of the era were forced to stick together, get weaponry and push crack on corners often referred to as corner boys. In the final moments of the album, he turns to his friends and reminds them that they are in this together. It's a powerful message of unity and resilience that still resonates to this day. Here is one of the final lines in the song. Things done changed. Back in the days our parents used to take care of us. Look at 'em now. They even fucking scared of us. Calling the city for help. Because they can't maintain. Damn. Shit done changed. In addition, many residents of Brooklyn were struggling with poverty and unemployment. The loss of manufacturing jobs in the area, as well as the effects of deindustrialization, left many residents without steady work or a reliable source of income. This led to high levels of poverty and social inequality, which were exacerbated by the crack epidemic and gang violence. Needless to say at this point, Christopher Wallace, better known as Notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls, had a rough upbringing in Brooklyn, raised by his hardworking Jamaican immigrant mother Valletta Wallace. She worked long hours as a preschool teacher to provide for her son, instilling in him a love of education and a desire to succeed. Biggie's father, on the other hand, was not as present in his life. His father, Selwyn George Latour, was a politician from Jamaica who had a brief affair with Biggie's mother. He was largely absent from Biggie's life and was not involved in his upbringing. Selwyn George Latour, Biggie's father, was a Jamaican politician who met Biggie's mother, Valletta Wallace, when she was studying abroad in Jamaica. They had a brief romantic relationship, but Latour was already married at the time and could not leave his wife. When Valletta became pregnant with Biggie, Latour offered her financial support, but he did not play an active role in his son's upbringing. After Biggie was born, Valletta moved back to the United States with her son and raised him as a single mother. Although Latour was not present in Biggie's life, he did maintain occasional contact with his son over the years. In fact, Biggie and his father were said to have spoken on the phone a few times and even met in person once. Despite this, Biggie's relationship with his father remained strained throughout his life. In an interview with Vibe magazine in 1994, Biggie described his father as a stranger, and spoke of his feelings of abandonment and frustration. He also mentioned that he wanted to meet his father again to ask him why he wasn't there for him when he was growing up. In terms of his political career, Selwyn George Latour was a prominent figure in Jamaican politics. He served as a member of parliament and held various ministerial positions in the Jamaican government. However, he also faced controversy over allegations of corruption during his time in office. Biggie's strained relationship with his father had a profound impact on him growing up. He often felt a sense of abandonment and struggled with feelings of anger and frustration towards his absent father. Biggie later admitted that his father's absence was a source of pain and sadness for him, and that he often felt a sense of longing for the relationship he never had. There are several stories that suggest the impact of Biggie's strained relationship with his father. In an interview with Vibe magazine in 1995, Biggie opened up about his father's absence, saying, "I used to ask my mother, why isn't my father here? Why isn't he coming around? It used to bother me a lot." In his autobiography, Unbelievable: The Life, Death, and Afterlife of the Notorious B.I.G., author Cheo Hidara Coker writes about a time when Biggie was a teenager and his father visited him in Brooklyn. According to the book, Biggie's father took him to a fancy restaurant and offered to buy him a suit. However, Biggie was suspicious of his father's sudden interest in his life and refused the gifts, telling his father that he didn't need anything from him. Despite his challenging circumstances, Biggie was a smart kid who excelled in school and received a scholarship to attend a Catholic high school in Brooklyn. At Bishop Laughlin, Biggie continued to excel academically and earned high grades in his classes. He was also known for his impressive writing skills and often submitted creative writing pieces for school assignments. According to one of his former teachers, Biggie had a knack for telling stories and a way with words that was beyond his years. It's fascinating to think about how Biggie's early academic success and talent for writing may have influenced his later career as a rapper and storyteller. It's also a testament to the power of education and the importance of providing opportunities for young people to develop their talents and reach their full potential, no matter where they come from. Unfortunately, despite his academic success, Biggie's personal life was not always stable, and he dropped out of high school before graduating. It's not clear which grade he dropped out in, but some sources suggest that he left school in the 10th or 11th grade. However, his love of writing and storytelling never wavered, and he went on to use those skills to become one of the greatest rappers of all time. Growing up in Brooklyn, he was exposed to a wide range of musical genres, including R&B, soul, funk, and reggae. He was particularly drawn to the sound of hip-hop and began rapping at a young age. Biggie was a big fan of the New York Knicks since he was a kid. He grew up in Brooklyn and often attended Knicks games at Madison Square Garden with his friends. He even incorporated references to the team and its players into his lyrics, such as in the song, "I Got a Story to Tell," where he raps about attending a Knicks game with a woman who turns out to be the girlfriend of one of the players. The Knicks and their players were a source of inspiration for Biggie, and his love for the team was a part of his identity as a proud New Yorker. It has been confirmed that Biggie's song, "I Got a Story to Tell," was about ex-Knicks basketball player, Anthony Mason. The news finally broke after Fat Joe dropped this bomb that many have been trying to piece together, since first hearing the song. Joey Crack claims he had no idea it was not a well-known fact. Anthony Mason was a hard-nosed player who gave it his all on the court and is still loved by New York Knicks fans. Mason suffered a heart attack in February 2015, rest in power. The lady in question's name is Luz Whitney. Apparently, Aunt Mason had a few women on the go at the time, but Whitney, an upcoming model actress, had caught his heart enough for him to give her a set of keys to his condo. Incidentally, this where she invited Biggie back to have some one-on-one time. Soon after, while Biggie and Luz lay in the bed, Aunt came home from practice earlier than expected. He was heading toward the bedroom when she yells out, "Honey, bring me up something to drink." In this time, Biggie has an idea from a song he had written. He tied her up, threw a scarf around his face, pulled out his piece and robbed Aunt Mason at gunpoint for $100,000 that he had stashed away in the floor. Biggie, like many young men growing up in his neighborhood, turned to selling drugs as a way to make money. He started selling crack cocaine at the age of 12, and by the time he was a teenager, he was deeply involved in the drug trade. There are several stories and events that have been shared about Biggie's involvement in the drug trade. One notable incident occurred when he was just 17 years old. According to his close friend, Damian D-Rock Butler, Biggie was robbed at gunpoint while trying to sell drugs. The incident deeply affected him, and he vowed to leave the drug trade behind. However, Biggie's criminal activity eventually caught up with him. In 1990, he was arrested for selling crack cocaine and spent 9 months in jail before being released on bail. He was later arrested again in 1991 for violating his probation and sentenced to 5 years of probation. However, even after his probation, Biggie continued to be involved in criminal activities, including drug dealing and robbery. In 1994, he was arrested again for possessing a loaded firearm, which violated his probation. He spent several months in jail before being released on bail, and his legal troubles continued to follow him throughout his career. It's worth noting that despite his criminal activities, Biggie was also a talented musician and a loving father. He often rapped about the struggles and dangers of life in the inner city, and his music resonated with audiences around the world. During the 1980s and early 1990s, the underground rap scene in New York City was thriving. Many talented young rappers like Biggie were honing their skills and gaining a following by performing at local clubs and parties. Some of the most popular clubs in the scene included the Latin Quarter, the Rooftop, and the Tunnel. The Latin Quarter was one of the most famous clubs in the underground rap scene. Located in the East Village of Manhattan, it was known for its hip-hop and R&B acts, and was a popular spot for up-and-coming rappers to perform. The Rooftop was another popular venue, located in Queens, which hosted regular hip-hop and dance music events. The Tunnel, located in the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan, was a particularly important venue in the 1990s, and was known for its massive parties and celebrity attendees. It was a hotspot for the hip-hop and rap scene, and many of the biggest names in the industry performed there. In addition to clubs, block parties were also a significant part of the underground rap scene. These outdoor events were often organized by local DJs and featured live performances by up-and-coming rappers, as well as established artists. With Puffy's help, Biggie's debut album, Ready to Die, was released in 1994 and became an instant classic, solidifying his status as one of the greatest rappers of all time. Biggie had varying relationships with other notable rappers of his time. He had a close friendship with fellow Brooklyn rapper Jay-Z, and the two collaborated on several songs, including Brooklyn's Finest and I Love the Dough. He also had a close working relationship with Lil' Kim, who was a member of his Junior Mafia crew. However, despite their differences, it's clear that Biggie and Lil' Kim had a strong working relationship and friendship. In interviews and through their music, they expressed a deep admiration and respect for each other's talents. Lil' Kim has continued to pay tribute to Biggie in her music, and has spoken publicly about the impact he had on her career and her life. Biggie and Lil' Kim had a professional and personal relationship that went beyond just music. Lil' Kim was a member of his Junior Mafia crew, and they collaborated on several songs together, including Player's Anthem and Crush on You. There were also rumors that they had a romantic relationship, but it's unclear whether these rumors were true. The dispute over the song in question, Queen Bitch Part 2, reportedly stemmed from Lil' Kim's desire to have a solo version of the track on her own album, while Biggie wanted it to be included on the Life After Death album. The disagreement eventually led to a falling out between the two, and Lil' Kim was not present at the time of Biggie's death. However, despite their differences, it's clear that Biggie and Lil' Kim had a strong working relationship and friendship. In interviews and through their music, they expressed a deep admiration and respect for each other's talents. Lil' Kim has continued to pay tribute to Biggie in her music, and has spoken publicly about the impact he had on her career and her life. As for his relationship with Jay-Z, the two had a mutual respect for each other's talent and often collaborated on music. They also shared a similar upbringing and had a strong connection to their Brooklyn roots. There is no evidence of any major issues or conflicts between Jay-Z and Biggie. In fact, they had a close friendship and respected each other's talents as rappers. However, there were some minor disagreements and competitive moments between them, as is common among artists in the same industry. For example, there were rumors that they were competing for the same record deal early on in their careers. Additionally, in the song, Brooklyn's Finest, there is a friendly competitive tone to their verses, with each rapper trying to outdo the other. In my research I came across a great post by a user named Last Hooker in Saigon that helped me a lot, so thanks. I made few small tweaks, but it breaks down a lot of the Nas and Biggie subliminal diss lines. Listen to Last Real Nigga Alive, off Nas's God's Son album. He speaks about it on the first verse. Second verse he talks about his beef with Jay-Z. Y'all don't know about my Biggie wars, who you thought Kick in the Door was for. But that's my heart. Y'all still tripping off this jigga shit. Real niggas listen up. I'ma tell you how the whole thing start. Kick in the Door was mostly a response to Nas's joint The Message, which is a diss song aimed at Big, with a few shots at Jay-Z and Tupac, and maybe shots at De La Soul and OGC. There's also a lot of non-specific disses that could be pointed at multiple people, Tupac, or no one in specific as well, and some fighting over the title of King of New York. Raekwon explained on Vlad talking about calling out Biggie and Bad Boy for biting Illmatic album cover with the baby pic. Him and Ghost thought that it was copying at the time. DJ Premier went on the show Genius and talked about Jeru the Damaga not meaning to insult Biggie but didn't view hip-hop to be full of fancy suits, luxury cars, which is mentioned in the intro. Biggie never drove himself, he always had a driver, he owned many cars. DJ Premier, Goes on to talk about Big dissing Nas, Jeru, Raekwon and Ghost, on Kick in the Door, which Primo produced. There will be links in the description. In the skit that starts the song, the mad rapper says, "I'm making records, I ain't made no money yet. This is my 4th album, yo, this my 4th album. I ain't made a dime yet." This could be a direct shot at either Tupac or De La Soul, who both had 4 albums out at the time. Could also just be a general shot at all the mad rappers who have been dissing him. In Biggie's opening lines he says, "Your reign on top was short like leprechauns. As I crush so-called willies, thugs and rapper dons." Calling out Nas in the first line. Referencing how Nas looked like the new king of New York, but it was short-lived. As a leprechaun, Illmatic was released April 19, 1994. Then Big took over the top spot when Ready to Die came out afterwards September 13, 1994, a mere 5 months later. Nas's reign at the top lasted only until Biggie took over. Second line when he says, "I crush so-called willies," is about Nas. Big Willie style was Nas's calling card. In memory of his best friend Ill Will who passed. Thugs was a shot at Tupac who was pushing the thug life movement, and rapper dons refers to the mafia influence that only built for Cuban links kicked off. Who, as mentioned before, made comments on Biggie and Bad Boy copying Nas's Illmatic album cover with both displaying a self-portrait of themselves as babies. Was told in shootouts, "Stay low and keep firing. Keep extra clips for extra shit. Who's next to flip on the cat with that grip on rap? The most shady, tell 'em, Frankie baby." More subs at Nas, referencing his song Shootouts. Nas and Big used to be good friends at one point as well, so when he says, "Who's next to flip?" he's referencing Nas turning on him. Jesus. Get off the notorious penis before I squeeze and bust. If the beef between us, we can settle it with the chrome and metal shit. I make it hot like a kettle get. You're delicate. You. Who sent ya? You still peddle shit. I got more rides than Great Adventure. More shots at Nas, saying if it's real beef we can shoot it out. Implying Nas doesn't actually have a real problem. Big points that he knows it was Ray and Ghost are the ones who sent him and are putting him up to the beef. Plus clowning on Nas for having to go back to drug dealing after Illmatic while he's getting rich off music. Next line. I drop unexpectedly like bird shit, you herbs get stuck quickly for royalties and show money. Don't forget the publishin' I punish 'em. I'm done with them. Pointed at original gun clappers who were either having label issues at the time, or might be referencing when Junior Mafia beat up Starang Wanda from OGC after a show potentially robbed him of his show money. Next line, son. I'm surprised you run with them. I think they got cum in them. 'Cause they nothing but dicks, tryna blow up like dynamite sticks. This is a shot at Jeru, who is Premier's friend and wanted to blow up like Biggie did. Next line. Take trips to Cairo. Layin', wit, yo, bitch. I know you prayin' you was rich. Fucking prick. When I see you, I'm a. Calling out Jeru for criticizing Puff, Big and Bad Boy for being flashy with money on songs like Me or The Papes, One Day and Ya Playin' Yourself. Claims he really just wishes he was rich like Big. Next line. This goes out to those to choose to use disrespectful views on the king of NY. Fuck that, why try? Throw bleach in ya eye, now you're browin' it. Snatch that light shit, I'm scaling it. Direct reference to a Raekwon line dissing Big from Ice Water. Next line. That's life. To top it all off, beef with White. Pulling bleach out trying to throw it in my eyesight. White is Frank White, which is Big's alter ego. Next line. Conscious of ya nonsense, in 88, sold more powder than Johnson & Johnson. Shot at Jay-Z, referencing the line in Dead Presidents, still spending money from 88. Next he goes at Nas. Ain't no other kings in this rap thing, they siblings, nothing but my children, one shot, they disappearing. In the song The Message Nas said, there's one life, one love, so there can only be one king. So Big clarified that he's the one and only king of New York. Next, it's ill when MCs used to be on cruddy shit, took home Ready to Die, listened, studied shit. Now they on some money shit, successful out the blue. Calling out Nas for rapping as a broke project kid on Illmatic, taking Big's formula for success on Ready to Die and using it on It Was Written to finally blow up. On It Was Written, he's talking like he's got money when Big knows he was still broke after Illmatic. They lightweight, fragilely, my 9 milli, make the whites shake. That's why my money never funny, and you still recoupin', stupid. 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 Clowning Nas for Illmatic's lack of commercial success, accusing him of still paying off the advance from that album, while Big is rich. And that's a wrap for now, on our Legend series featuring the one and only Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie Smalls. We took a deep dive into his early life, struggles with the crack epidemic, and rise to fame as the King of New York with the Ready to Die album. We also broke down his subliminal disses aimed at various rappers in Kick in the Door, and analyzed the storytelling in I Got a Story to Tell. But don't worry, there's still so much more to cover on this legendary artist, and we'll be back with part 2 soon. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel, Rap Tales Rewind, for more content like this. And stay tuned, because we're going to cover the top 10 hip-hop artists of the 90s, as well as much more in the future. Thanks for watching.